Shuanghuan SCEO. What if we told you the Shuanghuan SCEO was so blatantly copied that a German journalist literally blew one up just to express how offended he was by its existence? This isn't inspired by the BMW X5. It was the BMW X5's evil twin from an alternate universe, one where car designers are paid in instant noodles. The proportions, the rear lights, even the stance was shamelessly copied. The SUV came from Shuanghuan Auto, a Chinese manufacturer best known at the time for borrowing other people's designs and calling it innovation. And understandably, BMW was furious and sued Shuanghuan, claiming the SCEO was a direct clone. Luckily, the German court agreed with them. Sales were banned in Germany, imported units were confiscated, and it seemed like the SCEO was about to go down as one of the most notorious automotive fakes in history. But then Italy stepped in and said, relax, it's different enough, which is hilarious because the only differences were the badge and the level of shame. According to the court, consumers were not stupid enough to confuse them, which basically means, yeah, it's a copy, but only an idiot would buy it thinking it's real. And then it was sold in Italy under a brand called Martin Motors. And that's not all. This thing went on sale in 30 countries from 2005 to 2011. From Eastern Europe to South America, the SCEO strutted around pretending to be a Bavarian executive SUV while hiding a lineup of budget-friendly engines underneath, including naturally aspirated 4-cylinders and a 2.5-liter turbo diesel. Naturally, the Germans weren't impressed. One patriotic journalist made his point loud and clear by flooding the car with water, courtesy of the local fire brigade, smashing it with sledgehammers, and then blowing it up with dynamite, all while standing just 10 feet away. JMC Landwind X7. If you've ever wanted a Range Rover Evoque but didn't have Range Rover money, don't worry, China's got your back. And Land Rover's design files, apparently. Meet the Landwind X7, the world's most confident copy-paste job on 4 wheels, built by Zhongling Motors Corporation that was established in 1947. When it launched in 2015, the X7 didn't just take inspiration from the Evoque, it straight up photocopied it. The same roofline, same taillights, same everything. You could literally lose a game of spot the difference between the two. It was so shameless that even Evoque owners started double-checking their keys in parking lots just to make sure they didn't accidentally unlock the knockoff. And here's where it gets wild. Jaguar Land Rover actually builds the real Evoque in China, and when Jaguar Land Rover's legal team saw this, they went full sue first, ask questions later. And you know what? They actually won the first copyright victory for a foreign car maker in China. After all, the X7 was so bad that even loopholes in the Chinese legal system couldn't defend the copying. But did that stop Jangling Motors? Oh, of course not. They gave the X7 a facelift in 2018, which somehow made it look even more like the car it was copying. That's like plagiarizing your homework, getting caught, and then handing in the same thing again, just with Comic Sans font. And in case you're wondering if the X7 offered the same performance, it made 188 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque, way less than 240 horses, produced by Evoque's 2.0-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. But the best part? For around 128,000 yuan, roughly $20,000, you got the Evoque experience, minus the luxury, quality, brand reputation, and, well, everything else. The Zotye SR9, or as Porsche fans like to call it, emotional damage in SUV form. When this thing rolled out in 2016, car enthusiasts everywhere collectively squinted and said, wait, did Porsche just forget how to spell its own name? Nope. Turns out a Chinese company called Zotye, which was established in 2005, decided that the Porsche Macan was so perfect, the only logical move was to just make the exact same car again. And from a distance, the SR9 looks exactly like a Macan that got trapped inside a photocopier. The front end? Copy-paste. The profile? Copy-paste. The rear? Copy-paste, but maybe a little blurrier. Zotye must have thought changing the headlights to something vaguely Peugeot-ish would fool everyone. But come on, that's like Superman wearing glasses and thinking people won't notice who he is. Under the hood though, the SR9 traded Stuttgart sophistication for Mitsubishi simplicity. A 2.0-liter turbo 4, pushing out 190 horsepower. That's not terrible, but compared to the real Macan's 400-plus horsepower options, it's like bringing a Nerf gun to a sniper range. The funniest part? Zotye had the audacity to charge 170,000 yuan, around $27,000 for it, and even sold 45,000 units in China. Meanwhile, the real Macan started at about $52,000. So yeah, half the price, and roughly quarter the horsepower, the prestige, and the soul. Suzhou Eagle Carrie. What happens when a Ferrari F12 has a one-night stand with a Porsche Cayman in a dodgy parking lot behind a China mall? You get this. The Suzhou Eagle Carrie, quite possibly the most most confused car to ever roll on four wheels. At first glance, you might think, hang on, that's a Ferrari. But take a closer look and you'll notice something's off. The proportions aren't quite right. The badge looks suspiciously like a Porsche logo drawn from memory, and the headlights? They're giving F12 vibes after a stroke. From the side, it tries to channel Porsche, the air intakes, the rear arches, the taillights. It's all there, sort of. It's as if someone tried to describe a Cayman over the phone to a guy with a 3D printer and just enough plastic to make something car-shaped. And here's something that will sum up China's obsession with copying famous cars. Suzhou Eagle doesn't even make cars. They make golf carts. Somewhere in that factory, a manager probably said, "We already build carts for golfers. Why not build something for wannabe Ferrari owners too?" But it gets better. Despite looking like a melted supercar, the Eagle Carrie allegedly does 0 to 60 in 4.8 seconds. Impressive, right? Well, not really, because it tops out at 70 miles an hour. 70. That's the kind of speed you hit on a motorway just before you get bored and switch to the fast lane. So there you have it. The Suzhou Eagle Carrie, part Ferrari, part Porsche, part golf cart. It's proof that China doesn't copy cars anymore, it collages them. GWM Tank 300. If you've ever wondered what would happen if a Ford Bronco, a Mercedes G-Wagon, and a Lego brick had a baby in a cloning lab, well, meet the GWM Tank 300, China's idea of an original off-roader. And by original, we mean if originality packed its bags and moved to another planet. At first glance, it's hard not to laugh. The Tank 300 looks like someone printed a picture of a G-Wagon, left it on the dashboard of a Bronco, and said, "Perfect, let's build that." It's boxy, muscular, rugged, all the right shapes in all the wrong contexts. The front end screams budget G-class. The rear looks like a Bronco cosplaying for Halloween. And the badge? It's trying so hard to convince you it belongs in the same parking lot as either. But here's the thing. Underneath all that mimicry, it's actually kind of decent. Yeah, we know, blasphemy. The Tank 300 is built by Great Wall Motors, GWM, a company that once made pickups held together by optimism, and now they've decided to go full tough guy SUV. It comes with a 2.0-liter turbo four-cylinder, making around 217 horsepower and 355 pound-feet of torque, paired with an 8-speed automatic and 4-wheel drive. There's even a locking differential and a tank turn mode, a feature that lets it pivot almost in place, which feels like cheating in traffic jams. When it launched in 2020, Chinese buyers went nuts for it. The Tank 300 became an overnight sensation with waiting lists stretching for months, and you can sort of see why. It gives you the visual flex of a G-Wagon for a fifth of the price, starting at around 213,000 yuan, roughly $30,000. It's basically the fake designer handbag of off-roaders. Looks expensive, fools the untrained eye, and technically does the job. And here's the kicker. By 2024, more than 350,000 units have been sold. Before we reveal the final three, make sure to leave a like and share your thoughts on the most shamelessly copied Chinese car we've mentioned so far. BAIC Huansu C60. There's one thing you've gotta love Chinese automakers for. They make dreams come true. How, you ask? Well, when Lamborghini said, "Our SUV Urus costs over $200,000, China replied, "Shut up. We'll do it for 1/10 of the price." And guess what? They did it and nobody was shocked. At first glance, you might think it's a Urus that's had a hard life, the kind of Urus you find abandoned outside a nightclub, missing 2 wheels and its self-respect. But then you look closer and the truth hits you hard. The front end tries desperately to look angry, but instead it looks constipated. The side profile is all wrong. Too tall, too narrow, like someone pressed stretch on Photoshop and called it a day. And the rear? It's as if the designer ran out of references halfway through and thought, that'll do. Power? Well, Lamborghini's Urus has 641 horsepower from a twin-turbo V8. The Huansu C60 has a 2.0-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, making 195 horses. That's right, all the looks of an angry bull powered by a mildly annoyed donkey. 0 to 60. Let's just say if you floor it, you'll have enough time to make a cup of tea, stir it, and still get back before it reaches 60 miles per hour. But you've got to hand it to BAIC. They went all in on the illusion. They gave it fake vents, oversized wheels, and an interior that tries very hard to whisper Italian luxury, but instead screams airport taxi with leather seat covers. Even the steering wheel looks like it came from a PlayStation accessory kit. When it launched in 2018, the C60 sold for around 100,000 yuan, about $15,000 US, which to be fair is an absolute bargain if you pretend you're rich. Lifan 320. Imagine you're walking down the street and out of the corner of your eye you spot a Mini Cooper. Cute, stylish, retro, everything you'd expect. But then you blink and something feels off. The proportions are weird, the headlights look like they're melting, and the whole car seems to be wearing a disguise. Congratulations, you've just met the Lifan 320, China's best attempt at cloning the Mini Cooper, and somehow also the Fiat 500L launched in 2008. The Lifan 320 was supposed to bring that chic European city car charm to China, except it looked like someone put both a Mini and a Fiat 500L in a blender and forgot to hit smooth the result. A hatchback that's shorter than a real Mini, taller than it should be, and so awkwardly proportioned, it looks like it's been stretched in Microsoft Paint. Sure, the ingredients are technically there. The round headlights, the the chrome grille, the contrasting roof, even those wannabe sporty curves. But it's like someone got the recipe wrong and ended up baking a croissant with Play-Doh. The headlights and grille do resemble a Mini, but from the back, those Mini-inspired taillights sit on a body that looks like it skipped leg day. Under the hood, things don't get much better. The 320 came with a 1.3-liter inline-4, pumping out a heroic 87 horsepower, paired with a manual gearbox and a prayer. It was also offered for about 40,000 yuan, approximately 7,000 US dollars, about 10 grand, cheaper than a real Mini. The interior was just as unintentionally hilarious. Lifan clearly tried to copy Mini's funky dash layout, but the giant center speedometer looked like someone hot glued a wall clock to the dashboard. Fit and finish? Let's just say IKEA furniture feels more premium. But despite its knockoff looks, the 320 had a certain charm. It was cheap, practical, and tried its best to look premium on a shoestring budget. You almost want to pat it on the roof and say, "Good effort, buddy, BAIC BJ80. Someone really needs to have a word with whoever names cars at BAIC. BJ80? Really? Sounds less like an SUV and more like something you'd accidentally Google in incognito mode. But let's move past the name, because this thing has bigger crimes to answer for. This, folks, is the BAIC BJ80. Or as everyone else calls it, the Temu version Mercedes G-Wagon. We mean, just look at it. The boxy body, the exposed hinges, the flat windshield. It's like BAIC broke into Mercedes' design office, grabbed the G-Class blueprints, and hit Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V. Park one next to a real G-Wagon. And unless you're a car nerd, you'd probably do a double take. Here's the twist though. BAIC actually owns a chunk of Mercedes-Benz's operations in China. So technically, this is the authorized knockoff. It's like Mercedes looked at it and said, you know what? Fine, just don't put our badge on it. Under the hood sits a 3.0-liter turbocharged V6 pushing out 280 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque, a far cry from the 443 horses and 413 torque made by the 3.0-liter inline-6 unit on the original G-Class. Power goes mostly to the rear wheels, but with the right transfer case and traction systems, it can actually handle some real off-roading. And the best part? When it launched in 2016, the BJ80 started at around 298,000 yuan, or roughly $42,000. That's basically pocket change compared to a real G-Class, which makes this thing a budget baller's dream. Still, reality hit fast. Only 779 units were sold in its first year, and by 2024, total sales barely crawled past 12,000 units. We hope you enjoyed this video. Here's another one you won't want to miss. As always, thanks for watching.